Welcome to Yerushalmi Berachos Daf Lamed in the Oz V'Hadar print. I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground today because there's so many ha'aras. There's so much Agadah on this page that I really want to touch on a lot of points. But I will just say that if you want to get familiar with Agadas of Yerushalmi, definitely learn over this page and you'll see there's tremendous stories about perspectives on Gerim, perspectives on Jewish people, perspectives on death, and especially early death, and a lot of theological questions that are really amazing and beyond the scope of what I could present, and also stories of the amazingness of and the power of Chazal, and how Hashem protects tzaddikim in so many ways. That the entire blot is all Agadata and really powerful. So we're going to start with right at the beginning of the page. It says like this. B'shashi Yisrael Osir Mitzvah Shalmakim, when Klal Yisrael are doing the will of Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu Mechazer B'chol Olam Kulu, Hashem goes through the whole world, Ro Ezet Tzadik B'Umas Olam, and he finds righteous people among the Umas Olam, and he brings them into Klal Yisrael. Umevio Umedavko Yisrael, and he brings them to Klal Yisrael. Kagon Yisro and Rachav. It's very interesting. Those two people. Yisro was brought into Moshe's life, and Rachav was brought into Yeshua's life. And there's just a lot to talk about. We've always talked about Pnei Moshe, Pnei Chama, Pnei Yeshua is Kilavana. There's a parallel in their lives. Remember, Chazal tell us in Bavli that if the Jews wouldn't have sinned, they would have had Chamish Chomshei Torah and Yeshua. And Yeshua is literally a parallel of Moshe's life. There are just so many correlations. They both said Meraglim. They both were supposed to live to 120. Yeshua lost 10 years, etc., etc. And just really fascinating stories and correlations between each of them, what they did. Shemesh Begavon Dome, stopping the sun. There's tremendous parallels. So you go through all Yeshua, you'll see that over and over again. But anyway, that's what the Yerushalmi brings. In Koheles Rabbah, there's a similar thing. Remember, we said Rav Yochanan is the same author, and it also brings down other people like Rus and Antoninus, who are also amazing Gerim that joined. The Agadas Elio explains that what's going on over here is that when there was a Shviras Kalim al Pi Kabbalah, he writes, there was something called Nitzute Kedosha, these holy sparks that got lost, and they went out to the Mosa Olam, and when we do good, Hashem brings them back to us. And everybody heard the famous line of Berachos Lanter that said that why are people Machal Shabbos in Paris? It's because of the Jews in his city that aren't fulfilling the mitzvahs of Shabbos properly. So we see Mefurish that actually you see in this Chazal, there's many other sources for it as well, but that when we do the right thing, that impacts everyone and that brings other people back to Yiddishkeit. Rav Shach also is famous for saying this as well, that if there's no Chil Shabbos in Bnei Brak, then we're protected, etc., and very famous lines. But that's the idea, that there's Chil Shabbos going on in the world and that we have an influence on other people. And if we take care of ourselves and do the Torah mitzvahs properly, then Hashem brings the other people, the people that are supposed to be part of our nation, join our nation. If you want, there's a lot more in Agadas Elio. As I always say, there's a lot there. He has tremendous to say on this page, pages and pages. He has a whole shtickle on Ben Sora Amora, why he dies and what he did wrong. Very fascinating, but way beyond the scope of today, what I want to go into. Okay, also we find that there's a very famous story, famous mashal that Chazal bring down in the Bavli as well, that the owner of the fig tree knows when to trim the bushes, which is a mashal for used here and also in the Bavli for Hashem knows when someone's time is up. And there's a whole mimer on many things about people's time being up and what that means, etc. So the Gemara talks about when Rabbi Bon, who's a very famous Yerushalmi figure who's quoted a lot, Bar Rabbi Chia died, so Rav Zera gave a hesped on him. Now in this hesped, he describes him and he says the following thing at the end. He says, this man accomplished more in his life, in his toil of Torah, in 28 years than what any Talmud Vasik would do in 100 years. Now, does that mean that he was 28 when he died? It's pretty impressive if he was, because he's literally quoted throughout Yerushalmi many times, Rabbi Avon or Rabon. But it could be that it meant that maybe he was 10 when he started learning and now he was 38. I don't know exactly. The simple reading seems to say that he was 28 years old. But anyway, this is one of the explanations among many. Obviously, we don't understand Hashem's ways, but literally that this person fulfilled his purpose in life. The Shla brings down, based on Chazal, there are other midrashim that say that if a person dies young, then Hashem learns with them, and wherever they were on that trajectory of life, they get all that Torah because they shouldn't lose out the fact that Hashem took them younger, which is mashma in this Gemara as well, and many other Chazals. And the Shla says, therefore, a person should actually make a list of all the things he wants to learn, so he could kind of his aspirational things in life, and he could stand in front of Hashem and say, look, this is my plan. I was going to learn all these things. Yeah, it's true that it's thousands of years of stuff, but I didn't live long enough to do it, and that's a good taina. So a person should have that in mind. It's the longing that we have for Torah that is just so important. And again, there are just so many ha'aras here to share. Let me catch another one over here. The Yerushalmi continues and says, Rav Shimon bar Zavid, when he passed away, so Rav Laya, that was his name, gave a hesped, and he said the following thing. He said there are four precious things that people use, and he gave a list of these objects: kesef, silver; zahav, gold; barzel, iron; and nechoshes, copper. And he said these things are all replaceable, but when it's tzaddik, yesh lahem chalifim, they have a replacement. Avol talmud chacham shemeis, when talmud chacham dies, mi mevi lanu chalipaso, me maybe lanu tumuraso. It was a very famous line that we don't have a khalifa and a tumura. We need to understand why it uses two lashonos, by the way. I would love to hear your opinions on that, but it very well could be that it's going to tie into what the Agadas Aliyah says like this. He says there are four madrigas in Torah: Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod. And he says each one is Merames. Kesef is silver. Everybody has silver. That's the Pshat of Torah that the Talmud Chacham brought. And Zahav is the is a Remez. It refers to Remez because Zahav is scarce and only some people understand Remez of a Torah. And he says Drush refers to Barzel because iron is something that tries to gives rebuke to others, and the purpose of drush is to give rebuke. That's not so simple because drush usually refers to like drasha, like the mechilta, drasha, etc. Not like necessarily drashas aran, which is drashas that he gave, but which are somewhat hashkafic, but also maybe a little bit of musar, you could argue. But drush is not like the rabbi's drasha. It usually refers to just medrashe chazal. But anyway, that's what he says. And sod is nechoshes. He explains a lot of it. Nichesh means to whisper, and it's a secret that's taught. And also he says that it corresponds to nachashak and moni that we're trying to subdue. So it could be that the way I understand is maybe lanu chalipa and tamura is two things. One is for his Torah, and one is for his Gemilas Chasadim. And we've talked about this in the past in the shtickle on Sivsosov Dovas Bekever, that it's only for, according to some opinions, only somebody that had good midos and also was a Noah Dorish. So there's an element of Chalipa and Tamura, but Ayin Sham, and let's think about also how that would apply. A few more stories. So there's these amazing stories that Rav Kahana, we know based on the Gemara, based on the Bavli, which Yerushalmi doesn't mention the story here, but it kind of like picks up expecting that you already know it. I guess it was a famous story. So Yerushalmi tells the story of when Rav Kahana ran away from Bavel and went to Eretz Yisrael. And basically, there were a lot of people that were making fun of him because what happened was he offended Rav Yochanan. It's a whole story, Ayin Sham, but basically Rav Yochanan had very long eyebrows, and Rav Yochanan opened up his eyes to look at this man. And again, this is in the Bavli, not in the Yerushalmi. So he opened up his eyes to look at this man who was asking him so many kashas, and he saw that Rav Kahana had a split lip, which made it look like he was smirking that he had gotten Rav Yochanan, and this caused Rav Yochanan chilish zadas, which Rabbeinu Bachya says that when you cause that to Adam Gadol, so then there's a punishment that comes, and therefore Rav Kahana died, and so then the Gemara says, the Bavli says the story that when after Rav Kahana asked about him what happened, they told him he died. So and they explained to him that he always looks that way. He wasn't smirking, so he went and he revived him. So the Yerushalmi here picks up after that story, and it basically says, it's a very interesting Yerushalmi because you don't normally find this, but it says Kahana instead of Rav Kahana. It says when Kahana have alim sagid katzalik lacha. He was a young man when he came up here, and people saw him. Low lives saw him. It says, and they made fun of him. And they said to him, Ma kal b'shma, what did you hear in heaven? Now, let me come back. Just want to say a couple things. First of all, the fact that Rav Yochanan was blind, we find that a lot of people with disabilities did amazing things in their lives. And Rav Yochanan was one of the most prolific writers, including Yerushalmi and Medrash Rabbah. And what's interesting is that in the Yerushalmi, it says, Tachazi, let's look, instead of Tashma, which the Bavli uses a lot. Let's hear. So you see, it's interesting that the man who was blind is the one who could see. But there's actually a line, I might get in trouble by quoting it, but of Helen Keller, who said, those who are hard of hearing learn more from reaching out and listening. And there's an element here that certainly because of his blindness, he literally saw so much. One of the most famous Kabbalists that I mentioned previously was Rav Yitzchak Sagi Nor. And Sagi Nor means the one with enough light, even though it's a euphemism for blind. But it very well could be that somebody who's blind has an element of greatness to them, of course in Torah Sheba'al Peh, that brought it out even more. And it could be that Rav Yochanan, the author, that brought so much light to the world. It doesn't say that he was blind. I want to be clear. It says that he was very old and his eyebrows were very, very long and he wasn't able to see. But there's an element of blindness that this blind man, so to speak, saw everything. There's a famous line from the Baba Sali that said that when a person uses his eyes, b'kedusha v'tara, so when he could see me, sofa olam ad sofa. So there's an element of malchus here. But then there's another question here. about Rav Kahana, and Ayin Sham because it's a phenomenal story in itself. But the question here is that so Rav Kahana gets made fun of by these people, and they say, "Oh, what's the news in heaven?" They were kind of mocking him, like as if, "Did you really die?" So he told them, "Yeah, I heard that your Gizar Din was sealed, and that person died. And then another person bothered him as well, and he said, "Yeah, what did you hear in heaven?" So he told him that your Gzar Din was over. So the Agadas Layo points out that the Gemara itself calls these people lowlives. So it wasn't just that Rav Kahana killed them, because they made fun of him. These people did not believe in Tchias HaMesim. And he says that basically these people, for example, we find Tchias HaMesim in the Tanakh. We have Elio, who revives the Isha, the Tzarfatzis woman's son. We have Elisha to the Ben Shunamis, and also we have Rav Zera shechted Rav Yochanan and brought him back to life. And Bavli, Megillah of Zion of Beis, and Rav Yochanan to Rav Kahana, which is this story over here. And also brought down above Kama Kufyud Zion Beis, which is where a lot of the other details are. So these people, they didn't believe in Tchias HaMesim. That's what they were saying. So in Mela, they were Chayav Misa because so he was just explaining to them that they were dead. Bachya says this as well a few times, Al Torah, that Rabbeinu Bachya, that a lot of times when Chazal were nasan in at these people, they were Galshad, some of the Maral says this as well later, but Rabbeinu Bachya says it also a little bit, that really it meant that it was just a Gilei Milsa, that these people were already dead. What else did I want to say? I think there's one more thing. Yeah. So then the last Gemara towards the bottom of the page says that when Rav Yasa came to Eretz Yisrael to get a haircut. Sorry, I want to get to that in Rishon tomorrow. Sorry. Where was it? Here it is. Rav Zera, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, also very famous. He was the one, I believe, that fasted to forget Torah's Chutz La'aretz. So he said he was going to go let blood for health reasons, and then Chazal say that a person should eat what's it called, meat afterwards to give him more strength, and also drink wine. The Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Chaf Tes Aleph says, although this Gemara doesn't talk about the wine part. So he went to go buy a liter of from the butcher, and the butcher gave him a really hard time. Not sure exactly why, but the butcher just told him that you're going to get, if you want to buy it, it costs 50 dinrim and 1 lash. And Rav Zera tried to pay him more and more and more money, wouldn't take it, and he said, I have to, basically probably something along the lines of, I need to follow Chazal, I need it. So he took the lash, and that butcher died. And the butcher, so they asked Rav Zera, what did you think? He was just messing with you and bothering you. So Rav Zera said, I thought that was the Minhag HaMakom. So the Agadas Layo says that in the Ottoman Empire, they would subjugate all the new enlisted army men by having a general or higher ranking official hit them on the neck. That would show you're subjugated to us. So he thought this person didn't agree with it, but he thought this person was trying to subjugate him before he moved to Eretz Yisrael. But really, he was just he was trying to mess with the Talmud Chacham, and therefore that's why this butcher died. You find in Chazal a lot of negativity about butchers, by the way. Ahu Koves, also you find a lot of insults about them, and also the butchers. But Ayin Sham, there's what to think about. We'll leave that for a different time. I just want to say one more thing, which is interesting, very, very fascinating. I'm sorry I skipped it. I'm a little out of order. When Rav Kahana came to Rav Yochanan, so Rav Kahana came running to Rav Yochanan after these people died, and Rav Kahana said to himself, Masalikis Mizke, why am I here? I'm sinning. I came here to Limikdal B'nai Ard Eretz Yisrael, to kill people from Eretz Yisrael? Not at all. So he went to Rav Yochanan, and he said, I have a kasha for you. He said, if you have a person whose mother belittles him, but his father's wife honors him, where should he live? Think about what's being said. The Haredim says that he was saying that my mother, when I live in Eretz Yisrael where I belong, my mother country, the people here are making fun of me and I'm causing their death. But where I live in Bavel, which is like kind of a stepmother, it's not where I belong, it's a secondary place, right? But those people respect me there. So Amar Rav Yochanan said to him, go to the place where you're respected. Anyway, so he took that and he left and he went back to Bavel. And then Rav Yochanan asked, where's my great Talmud? And they said, he left on your advice. So he said, what? He never asked me. He said, no, that question he was asking, it was him asking. Very fascinating Gemara in itself. But anyway, the point is that a person should go to a place where they're respected. What a phenomenal lesson. Chazal say that Ritzona shel Adam zehu kavoda. It's said in the context of a woman, which hopefully we'll get to in Yerushalmi later. But basically, the way that we show respect to someone is by listening to their desire, and that's a very important thing in life, that we have to be around people that give us respect as human beings. So anyway, take a look at the page. There's so many things to see inside, and I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you learned from this.